a lot of times when I hear you speak about your father, right?
Mm,
Most of the times you talk.
Papa. Yeah.
Um, was he an inspiration in you joining the military?
Mm. So yeah, my dad, Papa. Yes. So my dad was in the Navy. He went to the Naval Academy. My uncle went to the Naval Academy. My dad did 30 years in the Navy. My uncle 26. Uh, my dad had command and major command. And I posted that picture on Instagram. I found it when I was visiting my grandmother a couple of weeks ago, and it's my dad's. We're at his change of command of his command. He's turning over, and I was in his cabin, and I had his
Hmm.
cover on, and my sister clowned me for my outfit because it was dated. But and I just look at that picture now, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, the answer was always yes, but I just love that because he's bending over doing some paperwork, and I'm just sitting there looking at the camera, and he's in his uniform, and it's just such a powerful picture to me. But what's crazy is the inspiration came well before that. Like I
Hmm.
decided I wanted to go to the Naval Academy when I was around like 6.
Yeah.
And it's not because I had any real idea what the Navy was about, but it's that I would spend summers in Annapolis. So the academy was right down the street. We would go onto campus. I would see the midshipmen. I saw the way my dad carried himself and just the person that he was and is. And I couldn't help but be inspired by that and drawn to that. It just seemed so amazing and just awe inspiring.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what I am going to do. And I set my sights on that at 6 and I never looked back. And I sent in that what I wrote in that post too that was under that picture was it always kind of grated my nerves to be real when people be like, oh, when they find out about my dad, because I'll talk about him, but I really didn't talk about I didn't never lead with who he was or what he
Yeah.
had done. Some people recognize the name over the years and stuff. But people would always be like, oh, you followed in your father's footsteps. And it's like, that just never sat well with me because
Yeah.
it seems passive, just kind of la di da di da in my mind and and I knew what they were saying, but in my mind, it felt like that. And it's like, no, my dad, I hustled and I worked hard and I thrived in the legacy that he left me, the legacy that he created for me in the Navy and with our name. And he cleared a path, and I continued doing the work to clear more of that path. And
Hmm.
that's the way, as I close out this chapter in my life, that I like to think about it. Is I hustled and I worked in my father's legacy.
So
Um,
I'm
yeah.
assuming that at some point, um, a plan was formulated, right? You don't seem like
Mm.
the kind of person that don't have a plan formulated, right? With maybe even an end goal, right?
Mm,
And you spoke about it. You spoke about it earlier, a little bit. You touched on it, but
yeah.
whenever you did formulate the plan, what was the end goal, or did you have an end goal?
So first, the plan was to go to the academy, and then,
Hmm.
interestingly enough, while I was at the academy, I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna be a Marine." I wanted to be a
Mm,
Marine Corps officer, which I think I had a personality that fit towards
okay.
that. Um, and then both of my two of my brothers are enlisted, one in the Air Force, one in the Army, and that was the thick of it. Was 2009. My brother Dante was back on R&R from a tour overseas in Afghanistan or Iraq. I can't remember which one, but we sat down and we had a serious conversation. He goes, "Hey, I'm telling you, like, maybe rethink the Marine Corps. Like, it's not what you think over there. Boots on ground. There's a lot of stuff happening." He just explained it to me. He's like, I would really maybe think about another thing. And
Mhm.
I love my brother Dante, and I respect him a lot. He brother, but also mentor of mine throughout high school and stuff. And so I took that on board, and I came back my senior year. And instead of selecting to go Marine Corps, I selected to go SWO.
Nice.
So then went into that, and then going into graduation, I was kind of like, we call it 5 and dive. When you sign
Yeah.
on your commitment in your junior year at the Naval Academy, you sign on for 2 years to finish the 2 years of school, and then you sign to commit for the 5 years after graduation. And so we call it 5 and dive, the people who go do their commitment and leave. And I was like, I'm a 5 and dive. Then I got out there and I was like, oh, I can do this. I'm pretty good at this. I enjoy the people. I love driving ships. Oh, that's the biggest part of the career. I love just driving the ship. And then it was when I became, I had to make the decision actually pretty young. Most people don't make their commitment to like lieutenant or department head. But when I was asked to fleet up as navigator, I had to do a single long tour commitment.
Yeah.
And that at that point in time, it's changed now, but at that point in time, I had to decide whether or not I was going to sign up for department head. And I mean, I had like a month to make this decision. And I was like, nav is in my heart. I want to do it. And yeah, let's do it. And so I signed. And that's kind of where it kicked off into. So there's been plans, but at every touch point, I've had to kind of reassess those plans, and it's turned into something that I maybe wasn't thinking of before. And then that's when it started to be like, command. I'd like to command the ship. And that carried me for a little while.
Yeah.
And then be straight up, I got to my department head tour. And it wasn't even the job itself or the challenging of it. It's challenging, but still manageable. It was that command didn't seem to be what it was when my dad had command. The way he talked about command, the way it was his, just the way and I want to say the ownership of it, like people who command now don't have ownership. It's not that, but it's like the ownership that they were allowed. The autonomy
that got us in trouble. Sorry to cut you off. That got us in trouble our first episode.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, when we was talking about department heads. David said, department heads. What'd you say, David?
I don't even know, man, but it got us in trouble though. No, I said, did I say it was like a figurehead or something like that? Like they just
like department
something
heads
like that. I said
say they have power,
who got
but they
upset
don't
about it?
really have.
Let me not ask.
Yeah,
power.
Yeah, it was something like that. I said,
yeah. All right, so coming in where we left, that was an edit point for anybody that's listening, right? I'm gonna keep it real pure, so y'all probably gonna hear it as a full pure edit point. But I was cutting you off because you was when you started talking about captains and decision making and stuff like that, and because our very first episode, we were talking about department heads and decision making, and like us feeling like department heads didn't have as much power as, didn't yield as much power as, they felt like they had, or it seemed as like, no, matter of fact, as they should have had, right? And you were getting to a good point about, wanting to be a skipper at some point, wanting command, but then seeing it wasn't like, what it was. And I'm just interested in hearing more.
Yeah, so I would have a lot of conversations with my dad. We would talk about it. We would talk. I would tell him the things that were going on the ship or things that I observed, and I appreciate his perspective. And he said it was different. He said it sounds different. That's not really how things worked back then. And I was like, even as a young child, I saw that, and everybody's different. But I just saw the way my dad carried himself, but also the way he spoke about certain things. In that experience. But then even when I look back to, so my first ship was a cruiser. So it was an 06 Captain. Both captains I had were super senior. They were both nukes. And I know the dynamic and structure, obviously the structure of leadership is different when it comes to a cruiser, but somebody still answers to somebody, right? And so between my dad's experience and then the experience I had on my first ship and just how that felt, that leadership, that autonomy that I felt within my captain and certain decision-making things, and like, when they said it was what it was, that's what it was, on and off the ship kind of thing. And it's not a knock to any of the captains that I've served with after. It's just I noticed the difference time-wise, the 8 to 9, 10 years between that. And then also the different structure between an 06 command and an 05 command, and how that structure works with the Desron and stuff. And so again, like my dad said, you don't need 2 points to draw. You don't need more than 2 points to draw a line. And I was just seeing a trend over time, but also a trend in structure. That command was different than I thought it was. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also because the Navy has changed a lot when it comes to politics, and because we can't act like there's not a whole lot of politicking going on around us serving and what we're doing. And so I just saw a different influence of that as I came into my department head tour. And I was a JG at the time with those captains, and there's maybe things I didn't see behind the scenes or conversations that I started to see behind the scenes as a department head, or how things worked. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz and behind the curtain. Mm-hmm. I started to see behind the curtain a little bit. And it was in my ops tour that I was like, if this is how that structure works, I don't know if I want this. Yeah. And that seed was being planted, and I would talk to my dad about it a lot, and we would talk about it. And I don't know if I don't know. Never mind. I don't know what we're allowed to talk about or not allowed to talk about when it comes to incidences, but we had an incident on the ship that was pretty intense that led to some interest, we'll say. And when I was talking to my dad about it, he was like, Alana, that's the risk of command. People talk about the not the glory of command, but the responsibility or the weight of it and stuff. But I didn't notice a lot of conversations happening about the risk of command, that you could have an amazing tour, do mm-hmm. everything right, and then not even do something wrong, but something wrong happens. And it's all wiped away. Mm-hmm. It's just all shot. Your whole career, everything that you've led up to that moment, not even just that tour, but everything that you've done, it's just wiped out. And he's like, and that's the risk of command. And that is also something that you need to pay attention to, you need to think of. And so, yeah, we would have a lot of conversations about it. And I just saw something different than what I thought it was.
Yeah.
So we'll say that. Yeah.
I had this thing, we was talking about structure a little bit, and mm-hmm. and at my job right now, like, right? Mm-hmm. So I was doing SEL for a little while, right? So, and I'm in there, and I had an 06 captain, and I'm in there listening to him talk. So our structures like this is, you got a cause, right? So he's a 06, mm-hmm. right? Then he has assistants, right? Mm-hmm. Like he have for an N4. But he got them all, though. He got N1, N4, all this. And what got me is that we are in 44, right? Mm-hmm. So he's actually under the assistant chief of staff, because you got N4, so under, but they all captains. So we got there's like 3 captains there. It gets me. I just didn't understand all that when I listen to him talk, and I'm listening to him go through this. That's 3 captains right there. Yeah. All of them 06s. Yeah. And that's crazy to me right there. Like, why you can't just have, I don't know. It just threw me off with this whole structure and how these things work, because, and then I see up on his board where he got the whole structure laid out. It's so many names there. It's so many, I'm like, oh, wow, this is like a lot. Like, this is he got all the names and all that stuff on his board up there. I'm like, this is wow, man. Like, and the only reason why I'm bringing that up, because when these decisions and stuff is being made, man, it ain't just one person at no time. These decisions are being made by several people when it comes out there. But I want to touch on it a little bit. And we talked about the times, though, right? Do you think it has something to do by you wanting to become command and all that stuff? And when your dad was doing it, it's being 2022 and things are just different right now. Like when I came in, I say this story all the time. I'm sure I brought it up several times before. When I came in, you didn't question anything. Now captains are probably if you're the commander of the ship, you probably got department heads, you probably got junior sailors. Everybody is questioning everything. And it used to not be like, it's like, okay, captain put out a job get done. Done. But it's not like that anymore. So
it's not. It is not. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I think that has a lot to do with someone thought process too, especially when they have family members that came up and went through the ranks also. And the last thing I got about your dad, what is one of those things that stands out when it comes to advice he gave you? One thing that just stands out. I know he talked to you a lot. You guys talk a lot, but
I got everything. Yeah. God, there's so many. My dad he's a powerhouse of just knowledge and experience. I'll say this because it was this transition I'm going through as far as, so it's a combination of things because yes, it was my health, but also my decision I could have done the push through thing. No, I'm good. I want to stay and talk to like everybody into helping me do that. Right. And the legacy of my family it's important to me. And how powerful to have had a Black man and his daughter both have commanded ships. Back to that inspiration piece, I just thought that would be so powerful. And I wanted to do that for me, but I also wanted to do that for my dad, to be real, to live to the fullest extent of his legacy and beyond. And it was one of the, not that I needed his approval per se, but man, did I have his support and his encouragement. He was like, Alana, it's time to go.
Yeah.
It is time for you to go. And he was the main person pulling me to my truth when it came to I was tired. I obviously wasn't feeling well. Command already wasn't what I thought it was. We'd had those conversations. He knew that. But also, to be real, I stopped feeling valued on the ship as a teammate and a team member. And he knew those sides and those conversations we were having about things that were happening on the ship. And he said to me, and I share this with everyone to help maybe guide them in their decision, whether it's about the Navy or about a future job or whatever. He was like, when you no longer feel valued, it's time for you to go.
Yeah.
Because that is not a place where you can thrive. That is not a place where you can grow. And he's like, and I know you don't feel valued on the ship or in the Navy in general. Because man, they cast you aside real quick when you get sick. So like,
yeah,
they do.
So
Roll the
like,
next one out.
Right, straight up.
Yeah.
And I understand that's the cog wheel and that's how it works. But he showed me that I wanted better for myself and that was okay. And that's more than okay. That's exactly what I should be doing. And so we were having that conversation and I was like, but what about the people in the Navy? Like, they need good leaders. They need people who care. And I feel like I'll be leaving that guilt again, that sense of service to that. And he said, Alana, how many people in the Navy? And we threw out the number and he was like, how many people are in the world? And I said, yeah. And he goes, you have an opportunity to touch the world, not just the Navy. He's like, your inspiration, what you're going to give people. He's like, you don't have to think of it just in the capacity of the Navy. You can still reach those people. You can still talk to those people while doing what is best for you, while doing what you want to do, while doing what is true for you.
Yeah.
And so he's got a lot of great nuggets, and I'm probably going to write them down all at once and caption them. But like, that was what I needed from the only person that could give it to me with the situation that I was dealing with was my dad. And I didn't even know I needed it. And he was the one telling me, like, it's time to go.
Yeah.
It's time to go.
It's crazy. That's a conversation me and you had, Damon.
Yeah.
How many people in the Navy? How many people in the world? Yeah, me and Damon had that conversation before, right?
Yeah.
It was offline.
First off, big shouts out to Pops. You know,
Pop.
because and I say this because that's what I aspire to be. Because I didn't have a dad growing up. You know what I mean? I ain't have nobody that figure to go, hey, let me go talk to this person about, let me go talk to that person about this or whatever. So, man, that's big, man. I mean, that's big for my kids to even look at, say, I can go talk to him about this and be inspired by something, you know, that I done, and which is huge, man. So big shouts out to Pops.